Hello, everyone, and welcome back. And thank you for tuning in again today. It is Monday, September 9th. It is noon, and I'm your host today, Jason Leeser. And welcome to the Skill Building Monday Drawing Group here live on the Reinventing the Tattoo Network, where tattooers, apprentices, collectors, and the curious are encouraged to join in these live streams, real world events to share and inspire and ultimately create better art and tattoos together. We beam out nearly every day, and with your help, have evolved into a quality network of amazing live and on demand tattoo and art shows that have all been receiving rave reviews. You can find Reinventing the Tattoo at www.reinventingthetattoo.com, um, where you can try it out for free. You do not have to get a subscription right away. You can pick from one of three different options that we offer for you to try it out. The first option is a sample webinar from the Reinventing the Tattoo Canon, where you get to go through and take a kind of sneak peek inside what it's like to have a Reinventing the Tattoo Canon subscription. The second option that we offer is to get some free advice from Guy Aitchison about your unique goals. Maybe it's something that you could work on improving. Maybe it's something that, maybe you're struggling with. And that is the second option. The third and final option is to take a comprehensive tattoo history course from Jay Brown. If you are a fellow tattoo history nerd such as myself, I cannot stress enough the tattoo history course is absolutely awesome. It's packed with information that, really helps us understand where we came from with the industry that we have now. At reinventingthetattoo.com, you can also find a full event schedule with weekly and special event live stream details. For example, if you wanted to stream into today's event, you could easily go to reinventingthetattoo.com, click on the events area, and you'll see a whole calendar pop up that's populated with all of the live streams that we offer coming up. You can also find access to the Reinventing 24/7 channel, which has 13 different episodes playing at any given time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that is accessible on all web enabled devices, smartphones, tablets, smart TVs with a browser, you name it, you can access it. All available at reinventingthetattoo.com. You can also find a whole host of professional development courses from over 20 world class tattoo artists. Artists such as Andre Malcolm, um, BJ Betts, Bob Tyrell, all of them and a whole lot more. They're all available. They all have paid for pay per view seminars that you can go through and purchase at reinventingthetattoo.com. You can also find us on both of the app stores, the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store, as well as our Reinventing the Tattoo YouTube channel, our Reinventing the Tattoo Roku channel, which has 12 to 15 different episodes going at any given time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And you can find us in all of the major podcast directories such as Apple and Spotify. Or you can do what most people do and just hop on your web browser and do a quick search for Reinventing the Tattoo, and you'll find it all, except for the book, which is still currently out of print. And I don't foresee it ever coming back into print. So, unfortunately, you will not be able to get your hands on a copy of that unless you check eBay. There might be one on eBay. You never know. But retail purchases of Reinventing the Tattoo book are actually out of print. So, that's not going to happen. Uh, if this is working for you, please drop us a comment in the chat and please tag a friend who loves tattoos. We're always trying to get more people involved, so please tag everyone you know. We have a number of weekly staple shows we always encourage people to tune into, starting off at 9 a.m. with Drawing for Tattooers with James Wisdom on Monday mornings. And that in that show, we actually go through and discuss basic drawing techniques and strategies. Helps us get back to our roots of being a fine artist in the tattoo industry. It's packed full of great information from color theory and sketching techniques all the way out to compositional techniques and you know uh, different art related topics. Following that, on Mondays at noon, you have this show, which is the Skill Building Monday Drawing Group, hosted by me, Jason Leeser, where we go through and work on developing different skills, whether that's working on our Procreate skills or our design technique, whether that's discussing topics with other artists. All of these are skills that we like to encourage and try to build up as much as we can. And once again, that's Mondays at noon. Capping off Mondays at 9 p.m., we have a subscribers exclusive drawing group with Sandy from Reinventing Tattoo Network, and that is only available uh, for people that have a Reinventing Tattoo subscription, whether it's Inventing Canon subscription, or maybe it's an Evolution subscription, or maybe it's just a subscription to the Monday evening drawing groups. You do have to have a subscription for those. Personally attest, when taking those Monday evening drawing groups, you will not be disappointed. If you look at the work I'm doing when I started doing those and the work that I'm doing now, you will notice a marked difference in the quality of work that I'm currently putting out. So I will personally attest to that. Tuesdays, we have the Tattoo Weekly Show with Gabe Ripley, Fawn Baker, and Jake Meeks from the Fireside Tattoo Network. And in that show, we go through and we discuss all of the new industry relevant news that might be coming out. Maybe new laws or legislation getting passed. Maybe it's new things that affect this industry as a whole. So that's all going to be there Tuesdays at 11 a.m. Following that, on Wednesdays at noon, we have the Tattoo Now show with Gabe Ripley. And in that, we get to go through and do a deep dive into the business aspect behind tattooing, whether that's talking about travel visas or advertising and marketing strategies, all of that and a whole lot more. That's all discussed Wednesdays at noon, the Tattoo Now show with Gabe Ripley. Following that and capping off the week, Thursdays at 6 p.m., we have the Tattoo Collecting 101 podcast with Fawn Baker, where we get to go through and share some of our stories about the tattoos that we've collected along the road and the lessons we've learned along the way. We do have one special event coming up that will be live in person, and that will be the Paradise Tattoo Gathering in October 24th through 27th in Hancock, Massachusetts. And this is going to be the tattoo event of the year. I can guarantee that. We have seminars and artists coming from all over the globe. We have people that will be in attendance, such as Jake Meeks from the Fireside Network, Kyle Olson, Andre Malcolm will be there teaching a seminar, Andy Chambers will be there teaching a seminar, Chris Mack and Jade Napier will both be tattooing, Frank DeMeo will be on premises doing tattoos, Haley Adams will be teaching a seminar, Amy Nichols will be there from the Apprenticeship Diaries, Damon Conklin, John Mesa, Renee Little, Mickey Schlick, Cindy McAndrew, Thea Duskin, Corey Ferguson, Steve Butcher, Marcus Leonard, Kaya Heitland, Gunner, Anthony Tex, Russ Abbott, CPA Richard Young will be on hand to answer finance and tax questions. And Bob Tyrell is going to be there doing a skulls seminar. So yeah, definitely something you're not going to want to miss. Would like to go through and take a minute to thank our sponsors and some of the people that make these shows happen. Starting off with worldtattooevents.com, the largest, most comprehensive resource for tattoo events worldwide. They're constantly keeping everything updated. As we know, living in a post-pandemic era, tattoo events and conventions are still getting rescheduled like crazy. So if you want to stay up to date with the latest, most up-to-date tattoo event or convention information coming to a city or town near you, maybe it's one you plan on visiting. Lord knows that's how I schedule all my vacations. Take a look at worldtattooevents.com. Would also like to go through and thank tattoonow.com, technology for tattooers, the leading edge in professional development, management, and digital tools for tattooers of all levels. They're 100% competitive with any type of CRM, mailing list, or scheduling software out there. So if you really want to get the digital tools to help you streamline your booking process, to really make you the most efficient you could ever possibly be when it comes down to booking appointments and getting more people through the door, take a look at tattoonow.com. They've been doing this stuff for over 20 years, and I can tell you without a doubt, you will not be disappointed. Would also like to thank Guy Aitchison at guyaitchison.com, the founder and inspiration behind Reinventing the Tattoo. Take a look at guyaitchison.com, where you can pick up a copy of his biomech encyclopedias, some of his tutorial DVDs. I believe he still has a few custom coil machines for sale, as well as countless fine art prints and the occasional oil painting, all for sale at guyaitchison.com. Would also like to say a very quick and special thank you and shout out to Amy Nichols at the Apprenticeship Diaries. The Apprenticeship Diaries is my personal recommendation for people that want to become a tattoo artist, that want to get a tattoo apprenticeship, but don't know how or are looking for more advice on it. Take a look at the Apprenticeship Diaries podcast with Amy Nichols. As always, we ask that if you like today's show, go through, hit that like and subscribe button down at the bottom of the page. Help us get the word out. If you would like to host a Reinventing the Tattoo event, become a sponsor of our community, or if you are looking for a fine art or a tattoo critique, you can always email management at reinventingthetattoo.com and we will get back to you as soon as we can. We have a very special guest on the show today, someone who I have been looking up to for a long time, whose work speaks for itself, both in the tattoo machine department as well as the um, just all around being a super awesome dude department. Uh, please welcome Tony Urbanek. Tony, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's up? Good morning, Jace.
Good morning. Good morning.
Or
Uh,
good afternoon,
well, yeah, good
depending
afternoon.
on where you're waking
We're
up
on
at.
tattooer time, so
Right.
some of us like to sleep in a little bit. I'm still nursing my cough from work, so yeah, still waiting up here. Uh, yeah, thanks for coming on today, man. Really appreciate it.
Oh, no
Really
problem.
appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I see
Yeah, no.
it's a study group for drawing. I'm pretty unprepared. I do have some pencils, so
Yeah,
like
well,
I say, I'm
it's not
prepared.
just about drawing. It's all about skills. Sometimes we
Yeah,
cover networking, how to go through and talk to other artists and pick their brains.
yeah.
That's a skill in and of itself. Um, a lot of what I've come to understand is, in this industry, sometimes when you have the right connections, not that things can't be done if you don't have them. It's that maybe they come a little bit easier. Maybe you can reach out to other people for advice. I've been able to build a pretty solid network of pretty awesome tattooers in the past few years alone. You know, so that's a skill. And this show is all about just building skill sets, networking. Going through, talk about running a convention. You do that flawlessly. You know, you do it. You do it in such a great way. You do, man. You do. I trust me. I have
Oh,
my ear
I
around
don't.
when it comes down to tattoo conventions. Yours
Yeah.
is constantly mentioned as super smooth, a great show to be at, just absolutely a blast to be at, and that ideally is what I look for whenever I work at a show. So, never heard a single bad thing about it.
Well, that's good. That's good to hear. We do our best to try and run a tight ship, and as I always say during the interviews, 35 years of traveling, I know what I like, and I've picked up bits and pieces from certain guys that I liked the way I think a show should be for myself, and I just we try to project that out to the newcomers, old school guys, and just try to do something a little different.
Right.
But I appreciate that.
Yeah,
It
man.
makes me feel like I'm doing the right thing, and I'm gonna stick to continuing to do it, just to keep it out in
Yeah.
our community.
Right. Well, and that's part of what I really enjoy about shows like yours is that it's very community based. You know,
Right,
you've got a tight knit group of guys there that all know what they're doing. Everyone's there to have fun, to make great tattoos, to really enjoy being a part of the tattoo industry. And I've worked at several other shows, and I'm not really going to mention which ones. More for legal purposes than anything else.
right,
Last thing I need is a lawsuit coming my way. But I've worked at a lot of different shows, some of which I worked religiously for over 10 years,
right,
and it was just more about money, and it was more about just like volume of people, and I started to become very disenchanted with it. Like it was
right.
like, okay, yeah, I'll show up. And I know there's going to be, 10 to 15,000 people coming through the door over the weekend, but like you don't have it. Some conventions end up being so big, it takes you 20 minutes just to get to the bathroom and back.
Yeah.
Lord knows if you have to run a stencil, good luck. You're gone for a half hour at least. You know, it's not, it becomes more commercial after a while, as
Yeah.
opposed to that intimate, okay, cool. I'm going to go and hang out with a whole bunch of tattooers. I'm going to walk around, even if I'm not getting tattooed, I'm going to walk around and pick some people's brains. I'm going to watch people work. I'm going to be immersed in the community of tattooers. Um, and that is what something I'm really looking at now as far as the shows that I really want to gear myself towards.
Right.
Um, if that involves 200 artists in a small conference room inside a hotel somewhere, cool. I work shows like that every year. If it involves more than that, awesome. If it's, I try to draw the cap now at like, okay, well, how many artists are going to be there? More than 500?
Yeah. That's,
Probably not.
yeah.
Probably not. That's it's getting too big at that point.
Yeah.
Um, but you've got this incredible network of tattooers, and we've talked a little bit about this last week. And people involved in the tattoo community that have entrusted you with like some of this like core tattoo history, right? That there's something to be said for that, man. Just cultivating that network, getting to know people on that level, man, that's huge. Because you now have knowledge in your head that some people don't even know about. They don't even know where to start asking questions, right? And you not only have been able to get those questions, but talk to the people that have already approached those questions, figured out the solutions, and then given you that knowledge, man. That's no small feat. It's pretty awesome, dude. Pretty awesome.
I think a lot of that is just time in, and I always tell people that. Um, it's just time in, and it's just showing up, and it's asking questions, and just sometimes it's just listening too, and just attaining the information that you're specifically looking for, and finding the right person to facilitate that. So through the course of my career, there was people I always looked up to, like a lot. We'll call it for just the genre's sake, the old school guys. But I always felt like they were unapproachable because in my mind, it was like that. What would you call it? Like I glamorized them like a movie star kind of syndrome, whatever. So guys like Jack Rudy, Tony Olivius, I would be afraid if I'd see them. I'd be like, like, and
Yep.
then as I got more comfortable and just kept showing up and saying hi, I'd be like, hi, and just run away. They would be like, hey, what are you doing, dude? Like, you want to talk? Let's talk. And I started to get more comfortable. Like people that don't know me, or people I don't know, I'm very shy around. Like I don't approach people. I've always had a hard time with that. But in the industry, it's 10 times worse for me. So like guys like Jack Rudy, dude, I've been doing this 35 years. I've worked Richmond with him for 20 something years. I still, when I see him, I'm like, it's Jack Rudy. I can't talk to him. But he actually came up to me in Richmond once and was like, dude, I really dig your machines. And we started talking, and I got to know this different side that, um, other than what I perceived him to be. And like I said, just showing up and getting to know people, they started to leak the secrets and the information out that I was looking for. And as I would continue to develop these relationships through the years, it became like family. Now we talk about whatever we want to talk about. I
Yeah.
feel like I'm just as much a part of the industry as they are. Even though I don't have as much time in, I understand it now, like the progression of learning and the process of this industry. And I talk about many different facets of my thought process with that. But I feel like you get to a certain point in a certain age, and you develop a certain understanding of how things work, and you develop you just you know how to look at things, like how to respect certain things and how to feel about certain things, and it just all becomes balanced to where you're not being pulled in any direction, and you're there. You show up, you're there, and it happens. That's kind of where I feel like I've gotten to with it. But I'm blessed to be able to get all this information from these old heads through the years, man. I was never one to really care about tradition when I started. I don't. Yeah, I used to work with Chris Henry, and he used to give me grief because he's like, "Yeah, you gotta learn the old school," and I'm like, "No, dude, I'm new school. I don't care about that. Old school's old to me. It's all about new school." Fast forward 10 years later, I'm like, maybe Chris is
Yeah.
right. I started to learn about
Yep.
the old school and the guys and the values. And as I get older, people start calling me the old school dude. I'm like,
Yeah.
new school, old school.
Yeah.
But I uphold these traditions and values, and to a degree, I've
Right.
modified in my own mind. But yeah, it's a process, man. That's for sure.
Yeah. And it comes with time, man. Like you said, the more time you have in, the more you're going to learn, better off you're going to be. I still fanboy out all the time,
Yeah.
especially when it comes down to, people that I've looked up to for a really long time. I actually have a high school sketchbook that I held on to, and I did like some matte medium, and I would go through. This was back in the day of tattoo magazines, right?
Hmm.
Where like my friends and I would go out to the Barnes and Noble or the Borders, and we'd say, "Oh man, there's a new issue of this one. International Tattoo Art just dropped a new magazine," or
Hmm.
Tattoo Flash just came out with a new edition. Got to pick that one up. And we'd go through and we'd cut out the pictures with like the little captions of who did what on them, and we'd like tape them down into our books and like look at that as inspiration when we were sketching. And I still have a sketchbook from high school with artwork from Marcus Leonard and Guy Aitchison and Aaron Kane and Bob Tyrell and all of these guys. And it's like it's funny looking back at that now. It's like I've got a tattoo Bob Tyrell did back in like the early 2000s, and like I can pick up the phone and call him now, right? And
Hmm.
ask him a question if I have a question. I can pick up the phone and call Guy if I have a question and ask him a question, and it's like I don't, because like I still fanboy out every time I think of
Yeah,
him.
I
I'm
feel
like, oh,
that.
I can't call them and ask them a question. I'm not worthy of that. Like, just this guy's a legend. Um, but having that option and that opportunity to just pick their brains, man, it puts you on a different plane. And if I look at where I was 6 years ago, you know, I was still working at like a tiny little hole in the wall studio, with a guy who was like, "Oh, you know, why are you doing that kind of stuff? That blah blah blah. Never gonna make anything of yourself that way." And it's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, okay." So, trying to keep me down so that okay, yeah, I get it now. You just don't want me to leave because I'm making you too much money. I get it.
Mhm.
Um, when that light bulb went off, it was like time to move on. And ever since then, man, it's like you put yourself out there. You do a few things, you help a few people. Um, Derek and Jordan, by the way, say Uncle Tony.
Yeah, I
How's it
saw
going? Um,
that.
but I think a lot of it comes down to putting yourself out there, being vulnerable, and finding ways to help other people.
Mhm.
I've got a background with technology. I'm pretty good with it. And, you know, through talking to Gabe and the Reinventing the Tattoo Network, I was like, hey, listen, I've got a background in this kind of stuff. If I can help, let me know. I'll be happy to. Whether it's hosting sessions for other people or doing whatever, or coming out to film or whatever, like let me know. I can help with whatever you need. And from there, it's like, oh yeah, cool. Let's have you come out to the Red Tree Gallery, and yeah, well, Bob Tyrell's filming a seminar, so we could use an extra cameraman. Oh, by the way, Nick Baxter's doing an online seminar. Do you want to facilitate that? And it's like, sure, okay, I can do
That's
that.
it's crazy how we
You know,
pedestal certain people,
it is,
and
and
at the
when
end of
you,
the day,
yeah,
we're just people, man. Just
you get to talk to them,
continue
and it's
through our
like,
journey.
yeah, it's like talking to your neighbor across the street. It's like you might not know them, you might not know like what's going on inside their family dynamic, but if you keep hanging out with them, you will. They're normal people, man. They're
Mm.
not unapproachable. Oh, I mean, I still have a few people that I think are unapproachable, but that's just like Philip Liu. Every time I know that man is in a building, I geek out. I do. It's Philip Liu. I mean, come on. Um, I almost couldn't even say thank you to him. I went out to the London show years ago. He just dropped a Dragon Claw book, and it,
Mhm.
it was like the worldwide premiere and release, and I think it was like number 3 in line to buy this thing, right?
Nice.
Um, and he's there personally signing each one, and like shake their hand and all that and say, oh, thank you very much for signing it. I almost couldn't get the words out, man. I was like, you're Philip Liu, hi, like starstruck, totally starstruck. um but I think if I approached him today, it'd be a very different dynamic. Knowing, getting to know certain people on the level where it's like, yeah, I can sit down and just talk about life. We are all people, and we're normal people. Ask us questions. We'll help,
Maybe
you
you
know?
are.
Well, I like to think I am. I like to think I'm a normal person. But then
Yeah,
again, what is normal?
yeah,
You know?
exactly. To be different is
Yeah.
normal. I was always told.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but a lot of it comes down to, just being a good human, in my opinion. Um uh
Mm.
Gabe from Tattoo Now just dropped a comment in the chat. He said, "We're all people. Some people are cooler than others."
Yeah, I'm way cooler than you,
Yeah.
Gabe.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I'm
it's
just
Gabe. That's not
messing with
really
you.
saying much, Tony. Come on.
I love Gabe.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's like you've got a very different perspective. You've been in this game a really long time. You've learned a lot of stuff that I haven't even gotten to the point where I can ask the question yet, and you've probably already figured out the answer.
No, you'd be
And that's,
surprised.
well, it's one of those things where I love getting people on here that have more experience in this field than I do and talking to them about that. Because if we don't know what we don't know, then we don't know the questions to ask in order to learn it. So it's, and I'm always on a quest for knowledge. I never
Right.
think I've learned enough. So I'm constantly trying to learn more stuff.
Well,
Um,
you always, I mean, and not you, but I mean, in my opinion, for myself, I'm always on the quest to learn more. And every day I learn something new.
yep.
And to be honest, just because I have time in the industry doesn't mean I know everything. There
Well,
are
true.
guys like I hired an apprentice, or I took on an apprentice 2 years ago, which I never said I would do, but he had so much insight and so much to offer from a different perspective that helped me open my eyes to a different aspect of the industry. So, I mean, he came into my world to help me and vice versa. So it's a good trade-off. So I feel like you're always learning. As long as you keep that open mind. If you close that off, then you're done. And I mean, that's just an old thought process.
Absolutely.
You know, you
Yeah.
mentioned Guy Atchison's reinventing the tattoo,
Yep.
and as soon as you said that, I ran out of the room into my library.
Oh yeah,
That,
man.
that's an
That
OG.
is the first edition, reinventing the tattoo. Don't show your serial number, people will steal it. Then they'll have access to the super secret forum.
Yeah, that serial number is
Yeah.
still good. I did not know
I
that.
believe so. I actually have mine memorized.
This is
Um,
2001. Yeah,
yep.
this is an early serial number. It's a four
Yeah.
digit.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I actually bought this off of a retired 80s 90s tattooer, and that was
Really?
he actually just gave it to me. And in the two supplemental books, the Elemental and
Wow.
the other one, which I have already. I have all these already.
Yeah.
So I have
That's
two.
the score of a lifetime, man.
But this
I
thing's
mean,
cherry
that's
mint. Yeah.
yeah,
So I pulled that off to show you to see what you thought.
right on. Dude, excellent condition.
Yeah.
Excellent.
That's,
Personally signed, which is
yeah.
awesome. Um, Definitely a collector's item.
Yeah. I
Definitely.
have. Have you ever seen the menstrual toaster poster?
I think so.
Yeah, I have the original signed one of those. I have, he did an advertising, and this will lead into a funny rock stars like star moment to the story. But I have, he put a flyer here. I'll just roll the story. So I had to go to Detroit and work with Skyver in like 2002, and I've been following Guy my whole career. He's one of my idols, Aaron Kane, et cetera. Anyhow, so Mike Skyver contacts me. He knows I'm building machines again. It's like 2002. And he's like, I want you to go to Detroit and work Tramp Show with me. I'm like, all right, cool. I'll sell some machines. So I go up and I'm driving. I'm like, hey, Mike, where are we set up? And he goes, we're right next to Guy Atchison. And I'm like, no, nope,
What?
nope. I said, no, Mike, I can't. He's like, fuck you mean you can't? I'm like, I can't, dude. Like I cannot sit next to Guy and try to do biomech next to Guy. No, nope.
Yeah.
So he actually moved the booth next to Tommy Painter's booth
Okay.
because I
Yeah.
was just so sketched out I couldn't be near Guy. But I knew Guy was going to be there, and in the late what was it the late 90s, Guy used to print these t-shirts and send flyers, all his flash out. So I had this three, I wish I had it here. I had this it's like an 8.5 and 11 folded in three, and it's full color both sides. You open it up, the menstrual toaster posters on the back, all his flashes inside, and then there's a Guy wearing his chainsaw t-shirt. Like he did all this cool art back then that we were all blown away by. So I held on to that my whole career, right? So this is what, 10, 12 years later or something. I take this and I'm like, I'm gonna have a Guy sign it. So I walk up to him in Detroit, and he's with, I think, Michelle Wortman at the time. Don't quote
Hmm.
me on this because I don't follow, who dates who. So I hand him this thing. He opens it up and he goes, turns to Michelle and he goes, hey, isn't that your ex-boyfriend who was this long-haired dude wearing a shirt? And I went like this. Just imploded right in front of him. I'm like, Guy, I'm so sorry, dude. I didn't. He's like, nah, don't worry about it. And he took his pen and he goes, and hands it back to me. And I'm looking at his signature. I'm like, what the fuck is this? What kind of signature is this? This isn't his name. He's mad at me. Oh God, I was mortified. Like I thought he just went and gave it back to me. 2 months ago, I get this book.
Yep.
That's how he signs his name.
That's
And I'm
that's
like,
his signature.
I
Yeah.
carried that for 20 years, dude. Like,
Oh, man.
whew, now I can breathe.
It's like all he did was scribble on it. I don't know. And it,
But I
yeah,
get it. I mean, I
yeah,
get it. Like I thought about it for years. Like, oh, okay, he's an artist. I get it. Like, I get that. But it's funny. It just validated everything for me. Like, it's just Guy. That's what he
yeah.
does, and that's pretty
That's how.
cool.
That's who he is, man.
You
And
know,
well, I mean,
that's a
also when,
flex. You don't
yeah,
need my name.
yeah, you don't even need to know what this
You don't need
says. Just
this.
there you go.
You know what it is.
Yeah,
Shit.
exactly.
No, it's great though. I mean, these are like my prized possessions, right? Because
Yeah.
I grew up admiring him, and Aaron Kane was one of my heroes also. And let me think who else. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yes, it
Everything
is.
is exhausting.
Yes, it
Ask
is.
me how I know. I do it every day. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, Aaron was always one of my like big inspirations, not just for the fact that, he could sit down, he could tattoo, he could create awesome art, but then you look at his machines that he was building, especially some of his like older classic machines,
mm-hmm,
right? They were all hand carved. He really took, the concept of a tattoo machine and turned that into a work of art in and
mm-hmm.
of itself. you
Yeah, he
know
did.
uh Years ago he was supposed to be doing a seminar out in Chicago. I think it was called like machine as a form of art.
Mm-hmm.
And I could be wrong on the title of that seminar, but I was planning on flying out to Chicago just to take that seminar. And I was like working out the travel details. I hadn't signed up for the seminar yet, and I was trying to work out all the travel details to make sure I could get out there in time to take that seminar. And he posted up an announcement that the seminar was canceled due to lack of interest.
Oh,
And I was like,
wow. That's
dude,
mind blowing.
like, seriously? Are
Do
you
that seminar
kidding?
today. Watch what happens.
Yeah. But just the way that he would go through, and he took something completely functional and
Mm-hmm,
he turned every single one that he made into a work of art, you know?
mm-hmm,
And from that point, you start to see a lot of other artists do something similar,
mm-hmm.
different ways, but still very similar, right?
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah,
they're not hand carving everything. Maybe they're giving it a rustic patina. Maybe
yeah.
they're distressing the frame or chipping it or, dragging it behind a car for a mile or two, to give
Done
it.
that. You've seen
It's a
my
good way to
stuff.
do it. It's a good way to do it. But it
Not to
gives it
see
a
it.
unique look. So from there it's like, okay, maybe they're not hand carving it, but you're still creating a work of art, even if it's the most clean and streamlined single block of metal, milled out by hand kind of machine. To get it super clean by hand, that is a craftsmanship and a form of art in and of itself.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And there's lots of people out there in this world that will debate me on what I'm about to say. And I welcome that debate. Bring it on. But to me, the craftsmanship that you put into something is, to me, one of the most prominent key pieces that makes a work of art,
Mm-hmm.
right? You have to have a level of craftsmanship in it. Because if not, we could put a canvas underneath a tree, have birds poop on it, and call that art, right? But where's the
I've seen
craftsmanship?
worse.
So have I. But where's the craftsmanship in that, right? If you can show me a level of
Gotta ask the
craftsmanship,
bird.
maybe you only fed these birds a certain diet for a
Specific
certain
berries
number of
and
weeks,
twig placement.
right? Or like
Oh,
paint
I
little
achieved
like
that.
bullseyes on it and put it beneath a tree or something. But like
Oh
to me,
man.
if there's no
Good.
craftsmanship involved, it's not a work of art,
Right.
right? So, to see people that are true craftsmen, yourself, Aaron Kane, I could literally go on for days about people that I really admire that are true craftsmen that really put their heart into what it is that they make, but they make something functional and they turn it into a work of art based on the level of care and love that they put into each machine.
Right.
You know, to me, it's mind blowing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I
because
remember. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to say, go ahead.
I remember when I got tattooed by Aaron in the mid '90s. He was working for Little Vinny down in Maryland, and I drove down, and I thought I was going to sit 2 days and get a full sleeve blasted out, and I sat for 5 hours and cried and went home. Dude is hard and fast,
Yeah,
and I'm a baby,
yeah,
so that didn't work for me. But no, so I was there, and he opened this box up with all his first run of carved. They were gray iron sets of fairies. They were carved walkers, and he had 13 of them, liners and shaders. And I looked over, I'm like, oh my God, because I love H.R. Giger. You know, I love Guy, I love Giger, I love Kane. And those,
Yeah.
like, I embodied all that. I mean, even before I saw Guy's work and Aaron's work, I was airbrushing Giger work. Like, that's how I started to build my shading skill sets when I was younger. So when I saw Guy doing the tattoos and then Aaron's version, like more graphical versions, I was like, these guys know what's up. That's where I fit in, and I just headstronged it. So any move Aaron made, I watched. So I go down. He has these machines, and I had a shop then, and little Vinny did those sets with what the hell was his name? He worked together with them. Oh, I feel like Dave. I feel like an idiot because I don't know this. It's all this old 90s Flash, but they had like 100 pages Flash. So I'm like, should I buy the Flash or should I buy the Cane machine? Should I buy the Flash? Should I buy the Cane machine? And Aaron's like, I don't care what you do, dude. And I'm like, I'll take the machine. It's the best machine I ever owned. I ran
Yeah.
that thing for like 15 years. I broke it 3 times. It's like in half now. It's number 13 out of his first 13 of those specific machines. Now I know he did some Jonesies beforehand, and I've always tried to find one and get one, but that's like unobtainable for me right now. I
Yeah.
can't. I don't even know who has one for sale. Um, but that went down this. For this is the perfect term to use too. I spiraled down this Aaron Kane hole.
Yep.
And I
Yep.
ended up with, I think I have 4 spirals in his now. I have his number one he ever did gold plated spiral. And then he did a gold plate for me. And then I think I bought 2 or 3 blacked out ones. I have a, yeah. So I started collecting all these canes at a young age. I still have them all. And then he did some cane spider webs. I ended up with a couple of those. Yeah, I just went nuts with this stuff. So he was like a really heavy influence on
Yeah.
my career, and I don't really keep in touch with him much. Like I never got close with him because I always feel like I'm imposing. Like you're on this whole different plane from me, dude. I know you're busy. I know you have family, running a business. There's no reason I have to keep bothering you, and that's how I always felt. Going full circle back to our original conversation. Like I know for myself, I try to stay available for people as much as possible. Um, I don't feel like I'm better than anybody out there, so I just I don't care at this point. Like let's talk. You know, I am
Yeah.
busy, but I still make time. Like I love what I do. It's been my, I've been involved in this since I was 18. I'm 54. I don't know. I don't know. It's just a lifestyle. Like
Yeah.
I, I, I don't even have
Well,
words
it
to
it takes
explain.
over, man. It takes over.
Yeah.
I gotten interested in tattoos. I wrote my high school term paper on it. Went to college, and all I kept thinking about was, okay, how can I relate this to tattooing? In every course I took, how can English lit? Oh, I have to write a paper on a cultural icon. And
Yeah.
I remember flipping through a tattoo magazine, trying to get inspiration on a cultural icon, and
Uh,
for some reason, one of the magazines I had a whole like area of pinups, right?
uh,
And I was like, all right, that's Betty Page, that's Betty Page. That maybe I'll just write a paper on Betty Page.
yeah.
And because it had to be like a feminist cultural icon. So I went through and I approached my professor with the concept. I was like, you know, can I write a paper on Betty Page? And they were like, yeah, yeah, actually, yeah, that they're like, but I'm gonna be super critical about it because I already know a lot about her. And I was like, oh, okay.
Game on.
So I wrote this paper, got an A on the paper, and it was and I did my homework on it. And her likeness has been tattooed more than any other pinup in the history of tattooing.
Huh.
Um, I mean, there's so many unique photos of her out there in private collections that we don't even know how many actually exist, right? And it was all because her likeness has been tattooed so many different times,
Mm-hmm.
right? That inspiration came from a tattoo magazine. I couldn't even tell you which one it was. I think I might still have it though. But it's like, chemistry. Okay, how can I relate this to tattooing? Okay, well, metallurgy is a part of chemistry. So if I can understand that, I can understand why I can't put coils on a brass frame without a yoke. Okay, yeah, okay, I'll take this class. That'll help. And every single class I took, I tried to relate it to tattooing in one way or another. And it became this obsession, this deep, dark, all-consuming obsession that's really kind of not really left a whole lot of room for other things. But I'm okay with that. I came to grips with that for a long time ago. Okay, like
Yeah.
yeah, maybe a concert, but like I could spend time drawing and tattooing or working on frame geometry and figuring
Mm-hmm.
out, ohm resistance if I use 26 AWG as opposed to 24 AWG wire when winding a coil.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is, it's like I got to a point where I would prefer to spend time doing that than anything else. Like, oh, there's a wedding this weekend. Maybe I can spare an hour. I'll go to the reception and then leave. Like, yeah, it
Mm-hmm.
might be a family member, but yeah, this is more interesting. So I'm going to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it really did kind of take over my life. So I can relate to that whole like spiral when it comes down to consuming your life, man, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah,
I've got a,
I hardly come up for air.
yeah. Well, I
Still.
mean, when you find something that you really love to that level, it's almost like you don't even want to come up for air, right?
Yeah.
It's like, no, this is my world. This is who I am, what I do, this is what I'm about. And if you want to come and join me in this, cool, like come on, more the merrier. But like try to keep up because like this is what I love. Um, but that's the point at which I got to, and now it's just kind of it went from this big inward spiral where like all I did was isolate and think about tattoos and machines and art and all things tattoo. Like, okay, well, if I solder my needle groupings down this far, it's going to be this stiff, and I'm going to get this kind of an effect with it. And then, but if I bring it down just like an eighth of an inch more, how's that going to play into different things, right? And that was a very internal kind of inward spiral, and now it's just exploded in this outward like spiral where it's like, yeah, I want to get to know every artist I can. I want to get to know all of these people and, talk to them, have dialogues, have conversations, consume knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
because all of these people, and it doesn't matter how long they've been tattooing, they've got to know at least one thing I don't. So I need to get to know them, even if they've only been tattooing 2 years. You know
Mm-hmm.
something I don't. I want to be friends with you so that I can figure out what that is,
Mm-hmm.
and, have that dialogue. Maybe I know something they don't. Cool. Let's talk about it. So now I'm in this like total opposite kind of a spiral where I'm just trying to expand my universe, but within the universe of tattooing, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So,
that makes total sense. It's an
yeah.
inward spiral into yourself to collect and gather, and then you explode back outward, put it into the universe, and share it with other people that are on that same explosion.
Right.
And then you take all that, and then you bring it back in and implode again with it. That I mean, it's a constant cycle. Everything's a cycle.
Yeah.
Um, that's been a constant cycle of mine for years as well. I'd go to the shows, and I told you I hooked up with Jerry Rieger, and he taught me a wealth of information amongst and Mike Skyver. But I could only retain so much at a time. So, say I go to Richmond one year, Jerry tells me all this stuff. I spend a weekend just badgering him, asking him questions. He feeds me information. I take it back home. I work on that for a year. I'm back in myself. And then I come back to Jerry next year. I'm like, look, this is what I did. What do you think? How about this? I researched this. I found this, blah, blah, blah. What do you think? Same thing. Back home, back in the hole, back out. And it's just been a constant cycle for me for years. Now, that's everything I do. That's not just No, it's everything in my life. I think it's a creative process. Like, get the information, take it, work on it, learn from it, ask the questions, expand on it, bounce it off of people, bring it back. It's a good way to work, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Just always bouncing, because if I'm left to my own devices, I can only figure so much out.
Right.
I'm not educated in metallurgy. I'm not educated in welding. I'm not educated in uh, electromagnetic field and conductance, but I've acquired lots of information from the subcultures
Right.
and the groups who specialize in these things. I picked enough out where I can deduct my own opinions and make certain assumptions that are correct, or defeat some of my ideas. But I mean, that's life. Everything
Yeah.
kind of crisscrosses in that aspect, in my opinion. So when I
Yeah.
started, to the machine point, when I started building machines, I just started cutting them with a grinder out of railroad spikes. I started beating them with hammers and anvils. I didn't know anything about metallurgy. I didn't know anything about coils. I didn't even dissect a coil. And it was just a process of learning. One day I was like, fuck it, I'm going to tear a coil apart. What's this? A wire, some tape, and a core. That's it. And then I started to read about coils. And this was before Google. It's a lot easier now, but you had to get out there and ask questions, or go see a guy who wrapped generators or made doorbell repairs or whatever, and pick their brain and see what they said. And other machine builders. Now, other machine builders back then were super tight on information, so you had to put time in with them before they cracked any secrets. And even then, they'd be like, "Look, I'm going to tell you something, and this goes with you, and don't just tell anybody this." And they would release some info and blah blah blah. But yeah, it was a process back then. Now I could just Google electromagnetism, how to wrap a coil, and what wire to use. Bang, right up. 90 places to buy it, and a YouTube video on how to do it.
Right.
It wasn't like that back then.
No,
Not
no.
like that back then.
I remember back when I was an apprentice, and this was, mid to late 2000s. Um, I actually emailed several different builders being like, hey, this is part of what I'm required to learn for my apprenticeship. The people at the studio don't really know too much about this. They told me to reach out to other people to try to acquire this knowledge. Can you help me? And
Yeah.
I got emails back from certain people that were just like, nope, sorry, you're out
Pile
of luck,
salt.
can't help
Yeah.
you. Um, Other people were a little bit more forthcoming with some information, um, but they kept it pretty vague.
Mm-hmm.
One or two people were pretty open. They were, one or two people were like, hey, not a problem. Like, what can I help you with? What are you trying to understand? Um, Focus on this and not on this because this is kind of secondary to this. And, just, but that was only like one or two people. So, it was a very, very closed off kind of knowledge base for a really long time. But I still was able to go through picking through different websites when I was coming up.
Mm-hmm.
The Time Machine website going through, and I think I still have the information from that site saved when Danny Fowler was talking about first run wire, ohm resistance, and ohm matching coils. And, he was coming from an electrical engineering background and all types of stuff. And I was like, oh, okay. Okay. I get this. And then reading about how he wanted to isolate electromagnetic fields and
Mm-hmm.
all types of stuff that was way over my head at the time. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to save this bit of information and I'm going to put that on a flash drive, or at the time it was like the little 3.5-inch floppy disks. I was like, I'm going to save this in like a Word document so that I can look at it later because I don't understand a word of what this guy is saying right now, but I
You,
might later on.
you
So
said
let me hold
floppy
on to
disk.
this. Yo, I still have it too. I do.
It'd be
I
better if it
transferred
was,
it all
what was
over,
it, the
but
5.5 inch? Remember?
I had a couple of those as well, the 5 1/4s.
Five and a
Um,
quarter. I put that on my Commodore 128, man. So
yo,
I had a 64.
oh, did you?
Yeah. Yeah. I
That's
love that.
impressive.
I learned basic programming on a Commodore 64 in middle school. Yeah.
Whoa.
And not to interrupt, but I just thought
No,
that was
no,
funny.
dude. It's
You
like,
referenced the floppy disk. Like,
oh yeah,
do you
dude.
even know what that is anymore?
Oh, you mean the save icon? It's a 3D printed save icon.
Dude,
Yeah,
I'm a
no.
photographer for Rubber City, and I still haven't received the photos, folks, if you're wondering. He says to me the other day, do you have the SD card? I'm like, you can't email me this shit like Google Drive, like SD card. My Mac, it does it have an SD card? No. What am I going to do with this?
Yeah,
It's funny how quick technology changes. Man. That's funny. Not
it
to
really
not to
does.
go sideways on this conversation.
Well, no, but technology does have a serious impact on, all other aspects of this industry.
Oh yeah,
Mm,
no doubt.
dude, look at
You
power
know,
supplies,
yeah, I was gonna
for
say, do you know
example.
Aaron from
Oh, I
Taptown?
do. Oh, dude, you want to talk about a guy who I feel inferior to on every level? Yeah,
Oh, he
that
speaks in
guy.
algebra. I'm like, just, huh?
Yeah, no, well,
I
I
get
think it's like
tired.
I think it's more calculus than algebra because
Yeah,
this dude is on a
yeah.
completely different level,
He's
right?
awesome. Yeah, he's
But I
awesome.
mean, look at where we're at now. I mean, I remember my old Elenco power supply with the banana clips, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, like way back when, but that thing was diesel. It would it
It
all
was
it had
raw
was like a little
power, dude.
rheostat.
Just blast,
Yeah, dude,
blasting those
and that thing
coils.
put it out.
Yeah.
It's like no, no, no. When the dial is set, you don't touch the dial. You don't touch that.
Ever.
Never touch the dial. It had like a little rheostat, or was it? No, yeah, it was a rheostat.
Yeah, 10
Um,
pin rheostat.
yeah, to
Yeah,
control the amperage to the
yeah.
machine, but it put out a constant voltage, man, and that power supply was no joke.
So yeah,
Um,
I have an old national power supply that I
oh,
thought was dead, right? So I have a workbench in my basement, and it was
Gabe, you are a nut, man. For those out there that can't see the comment, Gabe just said he was too poor for the tape drive, so he had to retype the program every time to play.
yeah, that's how I was before I got the external floppy drive game. And then they
Yep.
had duals. Ooh, for the one.
Oh, that
Remember the
was a
one
little too high
they had
tech for me,
duals?
man. Little too high tech for this guy. But
Anyhow, I
yeah.
I had that workbench in my basement. It was like wobbly, and I didn't have anything in the basement to like shim this table to keep. So I took an old national power supply and jammed it under there 15 years ago. So my buddy brings me a national power supply that needs repaired. He wants, there was something weird with it. We switched it over to different jacks or something. And it might have been an Eddie's supply. Yeah, it was one of Philadelphia 80s. It had the banana plugs. And I said, why don't we switch this to phonos? So I pulled, I remembered I had it. So I pulled it out, table fell. And I went and plugged this thing in. It worked fine. And
Yeah.
I swear to God, when I put it down there, it didn't work at all. And it probably was a foot switch. That's how stupid I was back then. But anyhow, this thing runs like a hammer.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Crazy the amount of power it puts out. Like I use a lot of tech stuff, soft. Like it's great. You could dial it in, like zero point 0.1 voltage at a time to get it exactly. This thing you plug it in, it's like wow, it just goes, man. There's no
Yep.
give, there's no love, there's no soft. It's the clean power that just you go
Oh
pull a
yeah.
line from shoulder to elbow like now.
And that machine will never stop.
No.
Those coils will never stop going, man. You'll break that rear spring on a machine before
Yeah.
anything.
Those nationals are great. Power. It was a
Yeah.
power supply. But I still, my first machine was a national. Well, it wasn't my first machine. My first machine was a Kaplan East Coast
Okay.
aluminum. It burned the
Yep.
shit out of my fingers always. The
Yeah.
thing was horrible. And then my second machine was a National Eagle. Garver had one. Garver's from Pittsburgh, and I used to hover on him when he tattooed. And I'm like, that's cool. That has $100 bill covers on it. I want one. And that's how my mind worked. It just had $100 bill. But I got it and put that together. That combination, dude, with like that was the new school, the beginning of new school era, that you could just crush them out.
Yeah.
You just crush out big ass tattoos fast. Love it. I still use that stuff.
Yeah,
Crush
dude.
out as big as I put a rotary in my hand. It'll take me 3 days to do something. You put a coil in my hand, I got that shit done in 3 hours. Just crushing it
Yeah.
out. Yeah, and with no trauma. Yeah, I don't. I can't figure that out. I guess that's a question from Aaron Williams too, from TACOM. Like, why? What are we doing here?
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of that comes down to hand speed, machine speed,
Yeah.
and that's through talking to a lot of different artists about, okay, well, what kind of challenges did you encounter when you made that leap from, say, coils to rotary or coils to a pen? Like, what kind of problems did you encounter? How much of a learning
Uh,
curve was there, et
mm,
cetera, et cetera? And a lot of people would say, getting the concept of number one, there's no sound. So it's not like you can go based on sound anymore
yeah, you
because
can
that used to be a
hear.
big
Yeah.
thing,
Oh yeah.
right?
Oh yeah.
So there's no sound. So you have to get used to that. And you have to get used to understanding hand speed versus machine speed. And
Yeah.
that was like the biggest hurdle that a lot of artists had to overcome in order to actually start using something more like a rotary or a pen or whatever. But through talking to them, it's like once they got it, once it clicked, once they got used to it, they were off and running.
Mm,
Um, but it's like, okay, well, you're switching something up that is literally indestructible, right? You could run over a good tattoo machine with a Humvee, pick it up, dust it off, and it'll keep
hmm.
running.
Yeah.
But nowadays, it's like you've got a lot of these high tech machines with circuitry in them that's so fragile that if you drop this machine at all, good luck. And especially if it costs you what, $1,000. If
Yeah. If you're
anything
lucky.
inside that machine gets jarred at all, it's
Yeah.
done. It's done. You're out $1,000 for that machine. Sorry, goodbye.
Yeah.
Um, so I think we're starting to see now a switch from a lot of people that were heavily invested into rotaries, pen styles, and cartridges and all that stuff. And I think we're starting to see a move back towards what's been tried and true, what people have been using, because they realize that it's a better long term investment.
Mm,
Now, not to say that if you take care of your machines and you never drop one, it's not going to work for you for 10 years. But the lifespan of an average cartridge machine in this day and age pales in comparison to a coil machine.
mm,
They're a lot more expensive to repair.
mm,
You have to usually send them out in order to get them repaired, which means you no longer have it in your possession. Heaven forbid the mail loses it.
mm,
Then you're really screwed. But
mm,
like coil machines, man, fixing those, cool. You got a piece of spring stock? Sweet. Let me punch a few holes, take some tin snips to it. Boom. There's a new spring. Cost me what? All of $1.50, $2.
mm.
And now I'm back up and running as long as I know how to tune it.
Well, there's a resurgence of coil education and
Yes.
coil machine purchasing, and we've seen it. There's a group of us that band together: Greg DiGiacinto, Chris DeWitt, Soba, Rich Helton. We all, as you see in my shows, we all work together and do certain things. Travis Kohler's jumping in now. Um, but I gave up for a long time on doing my seminars because I just felt like it wasn't the right time. The new generation's more into the idea of the rotaries, which has a lot of good points and it fits. Like I use one for black and gray, great for travel.
Yep.
You're not dragging a lot of equipment around, but as you spoke about technology evolving in our industry, a lot of the power units and wireless have come into play with coils as well. So people are starting to realize the benefits of coils once again, as far as like speed and um, just different abilities. It's just a different tool. Like
Yeah.
I don't say one's better than the other because it's just what you prefer. It's how you get from A to B, and we always say that. So we've all come together, and we're starting to do education again and put it back out there. And people are asking me to do seminars again. I've done a seminar on reinventing on how to build. Soba and Helton have banded together to do a co-production in each of my shows, which is, I mean, just fantastic. Soba's always been a hero to me back in the 90s, when he was with Workhorse, with Aaron, with Seth. I looked up to all those three guys. I wanted to be a part of that team. I just, it never panned out. But to have these guys stepping in now, like saying, hey, okay, it's not as hard as you think, people, to keep these tuned. We're going to teach you how to tune these. We're going to teach you how to put it together, what to look for, what to troubleshoot for. Because once it's up and running, your machine can run for 25 years, and all you got to do is just turn a screw an eighth of a turn once every year. That's it. Like
Yeah.
I've been lining with the same machine for 3 years. I don't even know if I've turned my contact point once. Once I got my tensions all set, that's it.
Yeah.
It's dumb. You turn it on, you plug it in. I know it's set to 7.1 volts to line with. And if I need to pack something heavier, I bump it up a little bit. Like I
Right.
know, and I've known all my machines like that for years, as you should. But I think there's a misconception about coils. Like there's too much. Like I just want to plug it in and go. Well, there's benefits on both sides of that.
Right.
And if you delve into the coil aspect of your tradition and your art, you're going to see why people do what they do and why they reach to those for certain um, techniques in their art. And once you see that, and once we teach you that, it's not as difficult to maintain as you may perceive it. I'm not saying people might not perceive it as difficult, they just might not like the sound of it. But who knows?
Yeah.
But once you learn these things, you're going to realize, like you said, it's a great investment. It'll last forever. I have machines from the 30s. Plug them in, they go. We talked the other day, you and I, on a personal call. We were talking about Mike Skyver's collection of Paul Rogers. For
Yeah.
those people listening that don't know, his museum burned down. His museum was a place I would frequent to gather information about our forefathers, coil building history, flash, et cetera, et cetera. He had the largest collection on the East Coast until it burned down. When it burned down, the building collapsed. It was knocked down, and these Paul Rogers specific. Well, I mean, it was all his stuff, but specifically the Rogers machines was a heavy interest of mine. I was studying at the time. They were all buried. So a bunch of us went up there and excavated as much as we could out. These machines went through a fire, went through a collapsed building, sat in water, and then Mike put them into a Crown Royal bag for 3 years. So they rusted up, and he decided one day, he's like, here's two Rogers machines. Can you bring these back to life? And I was just like, they are alive.
Yeah.
I will clean them up for you. Yes, but they
Yeah.
are still. A couple of them had some smoke coils from bricks and stuff squishing them, but there's it's not hard. It really isn't. Like if you could take something like that lived through that fiasco and bring it back to life in an hour, what does that tell you? If you dropped no offense to rotary makers or anything, but if that rotary was in there,
Yeah.
nope, nope,
Yep.
coming back, pal.
Nope. Not at all. Yeah.
That's pretty cool though. Good stuff. I could talk for days, man, about once you
dude.
get going and caffeinated, I could just, I got
Yo,
lots.
yeah, trust me, man.
Starting to
I'm right
warm
there
up
with
now.
you.
It's 1 o'clock. I'm starting to wake up in my mind. I've been up since 7, but now I shine about 7 p.m. That's when I really wake up.
Yeah,
Sundowning. All you tattooers know it too. 7 o'clock hits, you're like, "Ah," it's a whole different
yeah.
level.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, we are starting to run out of time today.
Right, Jason.
I do have quite a bit of other things I have to get done today. So I wanted to thank you very much for jumping on here. It's
Well,
always a
thank
pleasure, man. Probably get you back on in the next few weeks
Yeah.
if you're
Okay.
interested.
Yeah.
Uh,
Anytime.
you and I can talk for days about any kind of thing. So
We haven't even touched anything yet. This was just like, hi.
yeah,
We
this is
haven't
just a
touched
quick little
anything.
intro to the conversations that we will be having
Intro to
here
the
on the
intro. Yeah.
right, right. Just a quick
Yeah.
little introduction.
That's
But
it.
yeah, man, definitely have you back on in the next couple of weeks for
I
sure.
appreciate you. Can I shamelessly
Awesome.
plug my convention?
Absolutely.
So, for you, those of you who don't know, I do the Rubber City Tattoo Invitational with my wife up in Akron, Ohio, every July. So keep an eye out for that. We haven't announced. We'll announce that in January. But right now we have a show lined up here, about 25 minutes north of Pittsburgh, in a suburb called Cranberry, which is a bougie suburb. It's a hotel show. It's half the size of Rubber City. It's holiday themed, geared around fall and Christmas, and we have lots of good. And if you've been to Rubber City, you know we have lots of surprises for the artists, for the vendors, for people coming in off the street. We'll have probably about 150 tattoo artists, like 18 holiday vending things. Tattooed Santa Claus will be there. Soba and Helton are doing their workshop. Mark from Needle Jigs doing his needle seminar. Aaron Williams from TACCOM's doing a power unit seminar. So there's a powerhouse of knowledge and education that we bring into each of these shows. So we'll have that, and we have fun, like entertainment, music, raffles. We give away so much stuff; it's disgusting. Like, and everybody's gonna be tattooing. We actually have cigars and wine, our own brand.
Classy.
Check
Hell
it
yeah.
out. It's cranberrytattooClassic.com or at Cranberry Tattoo Classic. So that's the end of November, the week before Thanksgiving.
Okay. Okay.
Cool. But
Hell yeah, man.
I appreciate you having me on here. I appreciate Guy for creating this network, and Gabe. Gabe has just been gracious to me for the past 10 years.
Yeah.
He's helped me through a lot of good stuff, man. But I
Dude.
appreciate all you guys. I look forward to coming back again, man. I got to get to
Absolutely.
Kings of Magnetism Mayhem going again with Greg.
Oh yeah, dude.
Back.
That'll be awesome.
Bring it back.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah.
But everybody have a good
Uh,
day.
yeah. Take care, man. Be safe. And for anyone that's still watching, I'll see everyone again next Monday at noon. And next Monday, we actually have Richard Young on. He is a certified CPA. So if you're looking for information on how to streamline your finances and your taxes, because who likes paying taxes? Tune in next Monday live at noon, and we'll be discussing that with him then. So, Tony, thank you very much. I appreciate you coming on as always, man. You take care. Have a great day. And I'll be in touch and we'll get you back on again in a couple